Got a Dead Ops Arcade 3 video breakdown for you today where two players disconnect on round 208 and then run into some issues related to rejoining. Normally on DOA 3, if you disconnect on co-op, you could rejoin and retain whatever fates you had when you previously disconnected. The problem for them here is that for some reason, the two players managed to rejoin, but their fates are nowhere to be found. Yeah, that's a problem. But is it the game's fault? The chat seems to think so. But maybe the players shot themselves in the foot as well. But before we get into that, how did we get to this point? Well, the three of them are on Mausoleum 4.0, a very difficult arena for sure. They go into it fairly healthy and do a solid job throughout. The trio ends up beating the arena, and the host player even has some decent armor and a couple lives as well. The boys are even getting some karma points on their teammate. They end up taking a bit of a break after beating the arena, as they pause the match for over 2 hours using the co-op pause feature. Eventually they unpause, and the green player is anxious to hop on the teleporter and move on with his day. However, small problem. His teammates sadly disconnected. Now, the pause feature on co-op is supposedly a bit risky because people sometimes disconnect while pausing or unpausing the match, and that's seemingly what happens to them here. Now, on paper, the disconnection here isn't the biggest issue known to man. They didn't have any lives or armory when they disconnected, so nothing was lost there. The next potential complication is that sometimes you cannot rejoin if there is an update at some point during your match. And even in rare cases, it just straight up doesn't care and denies you from rejoining no matter what. But fortunately for them, they're able to rejoin, and Zarly, aka the blue player, is very happy about this development in the chat. Things are going well so far. After briefly rejoining, both Zarly and his teammate, PDS, quickly end up leaving the match and are invited again. Okay, the problem now is that when they rejoin each subsequent time, they are not given their fates. They should be given their fates. I mean, after all, their score is still being kept track of, so it's not like their profile was forgotten about or something. So what exactly happened here? After a few attempts of rejoining, the unsettling truth dwells on them that they most likely aren't getting their fates back. During this delay of game, the green player is trying to stay warm and get some reps in, but at this point, everyone in the match and chat are frustrated. People emerge from dark alleyways to remind others how DOA 3 bad. You have PDS, the red player, saying he's about to cry. Hell, you even have the European ambassador to the game himself gently extending the finger to David. I mean, everyone is pissed off here and things ain't looking good, fellas. I mean, it's a tough situation, right? Not only do both players disconnect, but then secondly, their fates magically disappear. Can things get any worse? In true DOA fashion, the answer is yes, as the cause of why they don't have their fates hasn't quite dawned on them yet. So for the next half hour or so, they continue to leave and rejoin, maybe rejoin during a bonus room will get the job done, maybe a little reset of the old console, thinking eventually the fates will reappear out of thin air. And they end up leaving and rejoining so often, probably about a dozen times or so, that they eventually lose the ability to join back. So now they're just totally chalked at this point, and the host player has to continue the game as a solo run and mess up the 3P leaderboards in the process. Oh, it's a classic. Now, I don't know if people figured it out eventually, but the reason why this is a video breakdown is everyone at the time somehow missed the rather obvious reason why they had no fates. And the reason why they don't is sort of the fault of the game, but mostly it's the fault of their own, as it could have been easily avoided on multiple fronts. So, when they first initially rejoined at the end of round 208, they actually were going to be given their fates that they previously had, firepower and feet. But for no good reason, they both ended up leaving the match mere milliseconds before their fate objects landed on their heads. So if I had to take an educated guess, the next time they tried rejoining, the game's code ran a check to see what fates they had on their most recent disconnection. And since they left the game before the fates actually landed on them, the game now thought that they had no fate when they last disconnected, which is technically true. I tested this theory in a round 5 match and my hypothesis was confirmed. Now, you could argue that it should perhaps be coded in some other way. Maybe you should run a check to see what fates you grabbed earlier in the match, rather than checking what your most recent fates are. But I think it's fair to say that this was a rather rare circumstance which would be difficult to anticipate. Who exactly is either going to purposely leave or coincidentally disconnect during the 2-second time window when the fates land on your head after rejoining? This is certainly the first time I've seen it, and hopefully it'll be the last. So, the final question you might be asking is why did both players leave immediately after rejoining, causing them to miss out on their fate objects? At first, I thought maybe they saw that they had a minimap radar on their screen, which indicates a rejoin bug where you have deadly dungeon settings, such as not being able to use the extra high camera view. That bug could be easily avoided by watching the full intro cutscene when loading in, but upon further inspection, I don't think a potential minimap was the reason they left their match. as they would have to be the fastest quitters west of the Mississippi in order to notice the map, then immediately leave afterwards. So instead, the more likely scenario, and what was confirmed to be the case later on, was that they left immediately because they noticed that they joined in the incorrect order, where P. Diaz joined first and was given the blue player, and Zarly was the red player, which is the reverse order of how they played all previous rounds. Understandable that they would want to get the proper colors, but of course, the easy solution here was to rejoin in the correct order to begin with, and even then, I feel like DOA intuition would tell you to just wait an extra second or two for the face to land on your head before trying to back out and rejoin. Even when trying to replicate the scenario, I had to speedrun a rage quit just to make sure I left before the death machine landed on my head. But this grave error by the both of them, quitting the match a second too early, resulted in them being fateless and eventually not being able to rejoin later on. Anyways, a bit of a different video today, using the misfortunes of the few as a learning tool for the many. Thanks for watching.